Welcome to Not So Typical with Rare Orion, where we not only think outside of the box, but we're smart enough to know that it was never really there in the first place. Have you ever been telling a story and instead of getting a simple, oh wow, that's wild, the other party actually came back with something more like, oh, that reminds me of a time when and then all of a sudden the conversation's about them. And I know that to neurotypical, non-autistic, or ADHD or OCD people, that this can really seem like hijacking the conversation, right? But to us neurodivergents, that is the conversation. Neurotypicals love to say, well, can't you just practice and stop? But what y'all don't understand is that by the time that we know we're even doing it, our brain already made these decisions without us. Let's break it down. When you hear a story, your brain is not just passively listening. It's actively processing that information in two key areas at the same time. Let's start with the hippocampus. The hippocampus is our brain's kind of like hard drive area. Not only is it in charge of memory formation, but also memory retrieval. And it doesn't just sit there. It's constantly scanning, organizing, and pulling up related experiences as new information comes in. So when someone tells you a story, your hippocampus automatically searches for a match, a time when you experienced something similar. And this is not just neurodivergent people, it's neurotypicals as well. But what happens next is truly where we see the neuro diverging. Remember I said two things are running at the same time? Well, we talked about the hippocampus, and now we're on to the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that is in charge of social norms, impulse control, and decision making. It's basically the brain's filter. It decides what you should and shouldn't say based off of social context. You see where this is going? Okay, so when the hippocampus finds a memory that relates to the story that you're hearing, your brain has to automatically decide which path do we take. Path number one is cognitive empathy. It is a neurotypical default. Your prefrontal cortex takes control and actually suppresses your memory in real time. So you're focusing more on the speaker's experience, and response follows a validation first approach, like that must have been stressful, or what happened next? This requires impulse control. Your brain has to actively block the hippocampus from jumping in with your own experience. This is where we see the second pathway. It's called the associative memory pathway, and most neurodivergent people, that's our default. So in a neurodivergent person, instead of your prefrontal cortex suppressing your memory that's coming from the hippocampus stays fully engaged, pushing your related memories into focus instead of suppressing it. Your brain shares it as proof of understanding. This response to us feels very natural, like hey, I totally get it. This happened to me too. But it's not a choice. It is an autonomic neurological response. Like I said earlier, I know that a lot of people are going to be like, well, can't you just practice stopping yourself and take the cognitive empathy path instead? Yeah, but my answer is like, can you practice having a different heart rhythm? Because here's the thing, by the time we even realize that we are parallel storytelling, our hippocampus and prefrontal cortex have already made that decision, or it wouldn't be happening. So it's not a bad habit. It's neurological wiring. Since neurotypicals follow the cognitive empathy path, they expect two things really. They expect acknowledgement, like, wow, that must have sucked, or an emotional validation, like, well, what'd you do next? So when they hear our associative memory response, it doesn't register as empathy. It feels like a subject change. I mean, it does break the expected conversational rhythm, and it can kind of feel like to a neurotypical, like, why is this about you now? But in a neurodivergent brain, parallel storytelling is how we say, I understand deeply, and it's how we connect to you at an autonomic level. The kicker is that if your brain follows the cognitive empathy path, you don't get to say either. Your brain already made the choice to suppress your hippocampus by the time you're already responding with that, oh my gosh, tell me more. All right, so here's the part you've been waiting for, the part where I tell you which style is correct. If you're waiting for that, you're going to be waiting a lot longer because it's not about right or wrong at all. It's just about two completely different ways of processing information and understanding they're both okay. While one prioritizes social flow, one prioritizes information sharing. But if we don't recognize the difference, we're just going to keep misreading each other. So if you've ever had somebody say, oh, why do you always got to make it about you? Just know it's not self-centeredness or selfishness, it's neurology. Now it's time to talk in the comments. I loved in my last video how many NDs showed up going, I am ND, I know NTs might not want to hear this, but give me the science, I want to hear it. And that right there lit me on fire. So I'm going to be making a lot more of these videos. This is on a playlist, it's going to be linked below. And as I add more of these not so typical videos. You can find them all on the playlist. So, have you ever had someone misinterpret your way of connecting? Let's talk. You know I'd love a like. I would love a follow. And as always, stay rare.